Hey everyone, in this video we'll look at how to set up weapon position and IK for custom characters so that they hold the weapon properly in the shooter system. So we are in the demo scene of the shooter system, and if I run the game and pick up a weapon, you can see that the IK and weapon position is correct for this character, and this character is holding and aiming the gun properly, right? But the problem is when we try to use custom characters, the weapon position that works for this character might not work for the new one, right? The reason for that is because different characters can have different bone orientation and all that. So we have built editor tools to simplify the process of setting weapon position and IK. So let's look at how to use that. So first, I'll add a custom character so that you can see the issue. So I'll just disable this character and I'll go to the FS Systems window and in setup, I'll drag and drop a different character for the player. So I got this character from this free asset in Asset Store. All right. So in here, I'll check shooter and locomotion and I'll hit on setup. Okay. That'll create the player for us. Let me just bring him over here. All right. And now if you run the game, you can see that this character is not holding the weapon correctly. Right. So that is because the orientation of the hands of this character is different from our default character. So we can set the position and IK for this weapon by using our editor tool. So first I'll go ahead and set the position of the gun correctly. So for that, I'll open the item equip and attachment setup window. All right. So this is inside FS tools and not shooter system because this can also be used for our other assets like the melee combat system. All right. So after opening this window, I'll select the weapon. All right. And make sure to select the parent object and not any child objects inside the gun. Right. And I'll adjust its position and rotation so that it feels like the player is holding the gun. All right. I'm not trying to be perfect here since I don't want to make the tutorial too long. We can look at the weapon from different angles. All right, and I'll just try to align the finger with the trigger. All right, that looks okay. We don't have to make the left hand perfect right now because we can fine tune it from the IK settings. All right. So once you find a position that works, you can go ahead and click on the Save Weapon Holding Data button. So here you also have another option. You can check the Save as Default checkbox. So if that is checked, then this position will be set as the default position for this gun. And otherwise, if it's not checked, then this weapon position will only be saved for this specific character. All right. So in this case, I don't want to make it default because if I change the default value, then it won't work for our default character, right? Since both of them have different bone alignment. So I want this position to only be saved for this character. So I'll click on the Save Weapon Holding Data button without checking the Save as Default. All right. So you can see that the data has been saved for this weapon. Okay. So now if we start the game, the player should hold the gun properly from the start, but this is not perfect yet. If you look at the left hand of the player, it's actually turned in a weird way, right? So we can fine tune these by using IK. So let's go ahead and do that next. All right, let me just minimize the game window and I'll go ahead and open the IK setup window. So it's inside the shooter category, and in here I'll select the hand IK setup. All right, so this is the editor window. So to start the setup, we have to first select a shooter character. So I'll select a player, and then once we do that, a button called Start Setup will appear over here. So we just right click on that. Okay. So I'll just dock it over here so that it's easier to use. So the hand IK will allow us to change the position and rotation of the hands and the elbows of our shooter characters so that it looks like they're holding the gun properly. Alright, so we can set up the IK in both the idle and the aim pose. So it's in the aim pose by default, but if I click idle over here, you can see that the character goes to the idle pose. Right, so first let's fix the idle pose and then we look at the aim pose. So from here, we have 4 spheres with which we can control the position of the player's arm. So the green ones are used to control the hand of the player, and the blue ones are used to control the elbow of the player. Alright, and by the way, you don't have to always select the spheres from here. You can select it from the inspector itself. So from here, if you want to select hand, then select hand over here, and then you can also switch between the main hand, which is right hand, or the support hand. Okay, so just changing from here will select the IK gizmos, or you can directly just click on them. Okay, so in this idle pose, first thing I want to do is I want to move the hand, the right hand, a little bit away from the body. Okay, so I'll just change this to global and I'll just move it a bit so that the gun is not too close to the body. All right, and next we want to fix the left hand. So right now the left hand is twisted in a weird way. So we can fix that by using the IK control. So I'll just select the left one and I'll rotate it. Okay. You can also look at it from different angles and make sure that the position is correct. And then you can also change where the player is holding the gun. So if you want it to be further away like this, you can also do that. All right. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I don't want to make the tutorial too long, but you can go ahead and spend more time and make sure that everything is perfect. Okay, so now the hands are looking good. Up next, we can adjust the elbows if you want. So for that, you can just click on the elbow gizmo and then move it. But for this character, this elbow position looks fine, so I'm not going to change it. Okay, so yeah, the idle post looks fine, and in the IK setup window, you don't have to save the changes manually, they'll be saved automatically. Okay, and by the way, if you want this IK settings to be the default, then you can go ahead and turn on sync to default. But in this case, I don't want to do that because I want the settings to be specific for the rig of this character. Okay, so now the idle pose looks fine. So up next, let's look at the aim pose. So I'll change the pose to aim from here. Okay, and let me just make the player aim a bit straight like this. Okay, and in the aim pose also, the left hand looks a bit off. So we can go ahead and fix that. So let me change this to global and I just rotate this a bit. Okay, I'll rotate it in the X axis. And let me just move it up a bit. So yeah, that looks okay to me. Maybe I'll bring it a bit closer to the gun. Okay, so yeah, now the aim pose looks fine. You can also try aiming up and down to see if it's okay in all angles. Alright, so you also have a few settings here that determines how much the bones like chest, spine and all should be affected while aiming. So you can learn more about it from the documentation. Alright, so now if I restart the game, you can see that the changes are saved correctly. The player is holding the gun properly in both the idle and the aiming position. Let me actually minimize the game window so that I can see how it looks in the aiming pose. Okay, so it looks fine. So this is how you set up custom characters in the FS Shooter system. So if all your characters use the same rig, then you only have to do this once. But if you're using characters that are rigged by different artists, and if those characters have different bone orientations, then you'll have to do it for those characters separately. So I'll stop the video here. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.